Good Sunday afternoon, everybody. I made a post on Instagram this week, kind of offhandedly critical of kind of the way some of the holidays, the excitement that leads up to some of the holidays, Halloween, Christmas, New Year's, you name it. And I said in it, I would love to see the build up and excitement over Veterans Day and Memorial Day. Those to me are the two most important, along with Independence Day, I guess. Those are the most important days of reflection and celebration that we have as a country. And it bothers me when people kind of overlook them, I guess. So that's that. So to walk the walk instead of just talking the talk, I decided to make a few videos leading up to Veterans Day this year. So here we go. Now that you got the backstory behind it. This is Jim Sursley. He was born in 1948 and played high school sports. He was a standout three-sport athlete, very outgoing guy. Graduated high school, wasn't quite sure what he was going to do. Didn't have money to go to college. He was walking through his town one day and saw a sign in the window of the post office that said, "Uncle Sam needs you." His father had served in World War II in the Army Air Corps. And so he had that history in his family. His dad never really talked about it. He had never talked about or thought about joining the military. Went home and talked to his parents a little bit. Mom wasn't happy about it. Dad was not in favor of it initially. So he thought about it for a couple of weeks, made up his mind, went down, signed up, went in to be a mechanic, specifically an armored track mechanic. Went through basic. They shipped him out to Germany, 66. Served over there for most of a year, I believe. And as things started ramping up in Vietnam, he decided that he was kind of out of the loop and wasn't really doing anything that he felt was contributing. So he told his commander he wanted to volunteer for duty in Vietnam. The commander initially told him, "That's probably not the best idea in the world, son. Why don't you think about it? Get back to me." So he did. A few days later, got back to him, said, "Yep, that's what I want to do. I want to volunteer to go to Vietnam." Commander signed the papers, put him on a plane. He landed in I want to say it was Khe Sanh, I believe, up north of Da Nang. Got attached to a light cavalry division, tracked vehicles with basically a couple of machine guns and a 50 cal mounted on it. Was in a unit of that. There was no motor pool, there was no mechanic work. When you went to Vietnam at that time, unless you were an officer or a very specialized MOS, you were simply a replacement soldier. So he jumped in, both feet, went on all kind of missions, faced all kinds of different combat tests and things like that. Got promoted a couple of times, so he made it up to I want to say he was an E6 at this time. This was in '68 when he got there. right after the Tet Offensive happened. It was in, I want to say, March of '68 or somewhere in there. And he was going to be there for a year. On January of '69, it wasn't part of his job, but every night before they hunkered down, he would go out, check the perimeter, make sure everything was set up the way it needed to be set up. He was just being diligent. And he stepped on a landmine. And this landmine didn't have any shrapnel in it. It was just explosive material. Blew up, lifted him up off the ground. He hit the ground and felt down at his legs and felt that there was something there, and said, all right. And then he immediately passed out. Woke up a little, came back to consciousness a couple of times. Medic was working on him, telling him he was going to be okay. Didn't have any tourniquets or anything like that on him, so he thought everything was, going to be okay. So that landmine, when it blew up, blew off both of his legs and one of his arms. But the fireball that came out of it immediately cauterized all of those wounds, so he didn't bleed. And that probably saved his life. They put him on a Huey. 3 days later, he woke up in Japan. Nurses telling him he's going to be okay. Passed out again. Was out for 2 weeks this time. Was in a medically induced coma. And this time when he woke up, he realized what had happened. They told him what had happened. He realized that he didn't have most of his limbs. They ended up sending him back to a military hospital in Colorado. I can't remember the name of it, but and he was there for a number of months. I want to say it was like 9 months. They eventually medically discharged him. He went back home and then thought, now what? Never been around disabled people. It's before the ADA Act, so nothing was accessible. He had a really hard time. And he decided not to go with prosthetics because for whatever reason, he just thought, that's not what I want to do. Get up and put on fake legs and a fake arm. I am what I am. I get around in a wheelchair. So he ended up moving to Florida. He got married. They moved to Florida. He started a business, several businesses actually. Had a roofing company, selling real estate eventually. And someone suggested that he visit the Disabled American Veterans Association there, the local chapter. And he did. And it was mostly for how they could help him at that time, but it very quickly turned into how he could help other people. He realized he was in a position to help a lot of people who were coming home in the same shape he was in. And he kind of, he did that. He would go talk to folks that were coming back and with amputations and things like that, and try to give them some hope and say, hey, if I can make it, you can make it. Look at me, and I'm still kicking. I've got a wife, got kids. He ended up having 4 kids, 12 grandchildren, a number of great-grandchildren. He's still around. But he started rising up through the ranks of the DAV, Disabled American Veterans, and he eventually became the national president, leader, whatever it's called, of that organization back in early 2000s. And he's helped so many people, and he's done so many things. He's been incredibly successful. He's an inspiration to people. I learned about him on a recent podcast with Jocko Willink, and his story just kind of blew me away. And I went and read quite a few other things about him. And, he's a good guy. He's a really good guy. I just wanted to honor this man. He took something that could have been life-ending, or definitely altered his path in such a way that where he was just a person existing, not doing anything, feeling sorry for himself, letting other people help him do everything for his whole life. And he said, no, I still have something to offer. And he offered it. And very graciously, people have accepted what he has to offer, and it's turned into an incredibly positive thing. But anyway, that's the start of this series. Jim Sursley, thank you for your service, for your commitment, for your willingness to go where people did not want to go at a time when it was probably the worst time to be there, for your sacrifice, for everything you've had to give up, for everything that you've given back. You're an absolute inspiration, not just to me, but probably to countless veterans, especially disabled veterans, that felt that they didn't have anything, and then you showed them that they had everything that they could possibly want, that was available to them, was within their reach. They could grab it. And I think that's just a indescribably important thing to let people know in that situation. And I honor you. I have no words, really. You're part of what makes this country great, and hopefully you're an inspiration for a lot of other people to follow your path and make a huge difference, not only in the country but in individuals' lives. And I just don't know what else to say. Jim Sursley, if you haven't heard of him, well, you've heard of him by now. Go look up Jocko Willink's podcast. I believe it's number 200. And there's quite a few different videos of Jim out there on YouTube as well. But listen to him tell his story. Listen to him talk about it. And you'll come away inspired, I guarantee you. All right, so you guys have a good day, and there will be more of these to come.